In one of the proudest moments as a father, I taught my son one of the worst lessons I ever had to undo. I want to talk a little bit today about how we celebrate or commiserate victory and loss and growth and all of this kind of wonderful stuff that is part of life's journey. I'm going to start with a story from about 3 years ago. My son did his first ever Iron Kids. And as you both know, I'm an Iron Man. I do a lot of triathlon, half marathons, all of these sort of like sporting endeavors. And a lot of that comes from wanting to inspire my son to live a healthy lifestyle, to race himself and sort of grow and push his limits. And so when he did his first ever Iron Kids, it was a 700-meter running race. He was 5 years old, 4.5 years old. You couldn't do the swim and the bike. It was deemed too dangerous for a kid of that age. So it was just a 700-meter run. And I said to him at the start, like, get in the middle of the pack somewhere at the start, like start off slow, build up, and like try to frame it up as a process for him of like, this is how you race smart. Which was wonderful until I'm near the finish line. He comes around the corner and he's in like 5th, 6th place. And this surge of emotion comes through and I'm screaming like, hammer down, Alfie, hammer down. Like you can hear it in the video. My voice breaking, the passion, the excitement. And he dropped the hammer and he crossed the line in 4th place. And me and his mum ran to the finish line. He come running towards us. He's got his medal around his neck. And I'm like, I'm so proud of you. I'm choking up and nearly in tears with pride and excitement for him. I'm like, you got 4th place, were the words I used. And in that moment, I realized, or very quickly realized, that what I just done is turned my son's efforts, turned his work, turned his energy, took all of his thought process, all of our relationship, and made it about a placing rather than the journey, that how he got there. And that really hit to me this kind of issue that I'm still trying to father out of how do we get young adults, how do we get children to celebrate process, to recognize growth, to focus on the journey rather than the destination, which is what we all know we should be doing. But society kind of counteracts that. And I wonder if what your own stories have been in that kind of vein. Have you found yourselves as a dad on the sidelines of your kids' football, or as a drama teacher and a director, like working with kids and young adults? Where's that tension for you guys? Have you come across that?
I mean, for me, I think about it in my children a lot, and I think about what I was like growing up and what I was subjected to, and subjected to in the positive sense of the word. I love sport.
Not torture. Not subjected
torture.
to.
No. Although there were moments.
Depends on what you was rehearsing.
Yeah, exactly.
There's that stick coming back out from your dance teacher.
No, that's not coming out. I'm just thinking about when I was involved in sport, or I was involved in succeeding with things, and I'm thinking about how my dad was. And he very much, I remember we did a talent show once. Talent is a word I'll come back to later on because it's a word that I really struggle with. But we were at a holiday park and there was a talent show, and there was me and my sister, and we decided we were going to enter. There was people singing, there was people dancing, but we were going to unicycle, juggle, and my sister, 3 years younger, was going to like waft some scarves around.
You had a unicycle with you on holiday.
Yeah, did you not bring your unicycle on holiday?
No, I carry it with me everywhere.
Yeah, well, okay. So, and
different worlds, man.
I had my unicycle, I had my juggling clubs and my juggling balls ready to go. And we did the talent competition, and we rehearsed a little bit outside the caravan, and then we went to the talent competition and we won it. And my dad afterwards, thank you very much. Yeah, thank you.
I'm proud of you.
I'm not sure the competition.
We've got to be careful how we frame this. Like, well done. How was the journey?
Yes, that's a good point, actually, isn't it? The journey and the process. Well, because my dad's all about process, and he's not really into sport, and he's very much about how we can constantly improve ourselves. He would never have an end target, an end goal. He just wanted to make things better and better and better and better and better. Try again. So when we finished that talent competition and we went into the room in the back, he came and he said, I'm so proud of you. I am so proud of you. Well done for winning that competition. And I just heard the words come out of his mouth.
Break from his norm.
Total break from his norm. And I wasn't expecting it at all. Then we won a holiday to go back to this place. And a year later, we go back, and there's a talent competition. It's the European round. This was just the Hunstanton Norfolk round, and it was the European round.
How do you improve on a unicycle juggling?
I don't think we had to improve because we were the only unicycling, juggling, scarf wafting act there. And so we said to my dad, could we do the act again? He said, no. He said, we're done now. You've had that experience. You've done something that you enjoyed. And actually, it's somebody else's time. It's somebody else's time. And in that moment, me and my sister were like, what? We could win a holiday to Europe. And we were so gutted. But in that moment, there was a lesson. But seeing my dad flip-flop like that, when he was all about process, not about competition, and suddenly he put us in a competition, then told us he was proud because we're in a competition, was a strange feeling.
And then to reverse it just a few months later and say, no, you're not entering this time around.
It was about a year later. So there was a lot of thought process to go into that moment.
So I wonder what went through he
doesn't
thought process. Like, had he actively looked back and gone, I used the wrong words? Did he do what I done with Alfie and go, I said I'm proud of you. I've celebrated this success, and what lesson am I teaching? And then has used the opportunity for the repeat to rectify it.
There was a learning point there. And I felt that it was more about ego, and my dad is not very fond of egotistical ways of being and behaviors. And so, and I think it actually helped. And I try and model that with my kids. Does it always happen? Possibly not.
How about yourself, you think it was a reflection on him trying to tamp your ego?
I feel
or not expand it.
I feel it was like that. He also taught us to look over our shoulder. To look over our shoulder at other people, and other people would come to these competitions at this holiday park, and they would practice for months and months, and it was their dream. And he could see that. You could see them practicing and getting ready and everything else. And so he recognized that.
Here comes Jez on his unicycle.
There he is again. Because it was an alternative act, and the rest of them were singing acts or dancing acts, and I think maybe the alternative kind of was variety. So, possibly about being egotistical, but also not just about doing things to win.
How about yourself, Nov? Have you either side?
Yeah, I think for myself growing up, my parents were not particularly sporty and did not encourage that in me. I got into recreational soccer, and I did it to the point of not wanting to do it because of pressure that I felt, not from them whatsoever, but I think pressure that I felt from myself. And it was just too uncomfortable for me to continue with.
Pressure to play better?
To perform. I think there was a point where I wanted to play at the more competitive, where I would have to try out for things to get on the football team or the soccer team. And I think my parents at that point said that I couldn't for a number of reasons. I think one, they probably saw how hard I was on myself, or that pressure, and that it wasn't necessarily good for me as an athlete and as a person. There was also a lot of money and travel involved with that they didn't necessarily have time or funds to support. And I am happy with that decision, that I didn't go that route. And I think about that in my own parenting of my two sons that are now playing pretty competitive football and or soccer, and supporting them in this environment that I'm in right now doesn't involve as much travel. And so I'm curious, if I was to go back to the place where I grew up and that competitive football would take a lot more travel and more time, how I navigate that. I'm also curious how my kids will navigate the pressure that they feel in those sports. And I think for myself, when I talk to them about winning or losing, it is much more about the process. What did they do well in the game? What they could have improved on in the particular game that they played. And when I asked my son this morning what I talk about with winning and losing, he was like, "Oh, you talk about the process, what I did well and what I didn't do well." I was like, "Okay, I'm on the right track." He's picking up what I'm saying to him.
Dad, it's so boring. All you talk about is this, and I got the medal. You know, if you're picking up what I'm putting down, then it's working.
Yes.
I'm curious. what was the conversation between your parents and you when they kind of said, no, we're not doing football anymore? Was it a, no, we're not done? Or was it a explanation? Was it a conversation? Or
I
was
think
it
it was a
demand?
conversation. I honestly don't remember it that clearly, but I'm pretty sure it was a conversation, me saying, hey, I'm interested in doing this, and they talking, and they lived in separate households but communicated quite well. So I think they had the conversation between themselves, and then they had the conversation with me, and I understood at that point too, and I understood their points and went on and did other things. And since then, I've been, I guess, more moving into adulthood. I find myself being more competitive, but much more in individual sports than in team sports. So I can work towards personal bests, that sort of thing.
Okay. And so it kind of links to like Carol Dweck's work on mindset and growth mindset, fixed mindsets, and the mindset that we look at, whether we're looking at growth or whether we're celebrating like talent, as you said earlier, whether it's a fixed state or whether it's something that can develop. It's interesting that you say you've moved from team sports and that pressure you put on yourself, which is actually not pressure on yourself, it's pressure on a team, most of which are outside of your control. Whereas as an adult, you've shifted towards an individual sports, individual competition, which you do have control over. Has that been a conscious shift, or is it just part of like mature? Like, I wonder, because I grew up doing individual sports. I boxed at a reasonably high level and competitive level. And that was always an individual sport. It was always on the process. If I didn't train, if I didn't put in the road work, if I didn't spend X amount of hours sparring, when the bell went, it's me and some other kid who's trying to punch me in the face. So there's nowhere to hide. You have to have been putting in the process work. And when I speak to friends, or at the time looked around at people that were on team sport, well, you can have a bad day and still win because your team carries you. But the individualistic nature of certain environments forces you to follow through with the process or be found out. Has that been a conscious shift that you've tried to do the individual so you can focus on your personal growth rather than rely on others? Or has it just been circumstance that's led you there?
I think it's probably a little bit of both. With the circumstance, it's easier to go on a run or a bike ride by myself versus getting a bunch of people together to do a sport. So I think that circumstance plays a big role in it. But I also think that I don't necessarily enjoy, and I've done running races, I've done races where I'm on my bike, mountain biking and cyclocross racing, but that part is not really what I enjoy. Well, that's not really the reason that I do it. I really love the process of training. And so that process doesn't have the pressure of performance in it. And I spend way more time doing that than I spend in the actual race. So I do the race, I push myself hard, but I don't really enjoy it. I remember one particular trail race that I was doing, and beautiful day, a bunch of people that I kind of knew, but we were just out in the woods running on these trails.
And you've got no energy to talk to anybody.
It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. We're all out there doing this thing, exerting ourselves together. And I was like, everybody's in a hurry. Why is everybody in a hurry? This is so wonderful. And I was hurrying, and I was doing well, but it is really that process of getting to that point that I enjoy and find reward in more than the actual race itself, because I think it goes back to that pressure that I didn't really like when I was an adolescent.
And then they say, like, because I do a lot of running races and triathlons, and the marathon or the half marathon or the Ironman is actually a celebration of the training that's come before.
Yeah.
Like, you spend hours and hours. And I remember, it's interesting you say, like, everyone was in a hurry on the race. There was a race I did across Madagascar, 125 kilometers through the mountains. But you started at 8 p.m. So all this beautiful scenery is lost in the darkness. You're just running down the headlight, and off you go. You're just running, following your torch, and you can't see anything. So a few weeks before the race, I went out and ran the course to experience the beauty and take some moments to just sit on a rock and breathe and be grateful that my body's able to carry me through this, knowing that come race day, I'd be in a rush and not be able to have that conversation with anybody. Jez, with theatre and performing arts, is it similar? Do you try to find the joy in the rehearsals, or is it all the focus is on the performance and riding your unicycle out on stage, or is it in the hours of learning too?
It's when I work in theatre, there are different ways of running a school show or a show in a theatre school, or there's so many different ways. There's the way where you audition, and the person who is the best will perform because they're the right person for that role. And the other people will go, oh, I'm never going to be that person. Interestingly, my mom had a situation when she was at school and she was auditioning for a play, just to paint this picture. And she was auditioning for Juliet in Romeo and Juliet. And she did the audition, and the teacher said, that was really one of the best auditions I've seen. But you're overweight. So you will not play Juliet. And in that moment, that sense of, am I right? Yes, I am. Have I got the right voice? Have I got the right, but because I'm overweight. Now, the impact that can have on somebody is life-changing. Yep. And the reason I paint that picture is because when I think about the arts, when I think about theatre, when I think about dance, and I think about it through education or any place, it's about everybody being in a circle, having the same viewpoint, having the same equal contribution to a process. And I don't know if you're familiar with...
Same viewpoint being the same end goal in mind.
They have the same end goal,
perspectives of the...
but they're all also equal parts of the machine.
Yeah.
When I was at theatre school when I was younger, I would never get the lead role. But I was brought up with this philosophy of ensemble. Right? It even says it on my t-shirt. This concept of ensemble, which Michael Boyd talks about this. He's a former artistic director of the Royal Shakespeare Company. And he has a set of beautiful words that drive the sense of ensemble. What is ensemble? It's altruism. It's putting yourself before others. It's trust. It's forgiveness.
So putting yourself before others or putting others before yourself?
That's what I meant to say.
Just
I was in my mind, I was riding a unicycle.
How is Boyd changing the dictionary here?
He became much more selfish. You put yourself...
Yeah.
Apologies. Yes. So this concept of putting others before yourself.
The vision first. The vision is the priority, the perspective.
This concept of trust, compassion. And we build an ensemble by everybody having an equal part, even if they don't have an equal role. So if I'm playing third soldier from the left, as I've talked about before, I often see myself...
Star.
Sorry?
I thought it was the star.
I was also a North Star, but that was my leading role. This was third soldier from the left, where I say that because I have got a very small part within a big production, but I know that my part is as important as everybody else's. And that philosophy drives everything that I do. And I hope it's the same with my children, in that when they go into situations and they enter that situation, that they understand they're part of the bigger picture. But everything is about the process.
And if you take... I like the analogy of a machine because I often, in leadership, will say to people, like, you have your role to fill, but we're all heading in the same direction. If I take the tiniest screw or cog out of the engine, the entire engine will fall apart and it won't work because I've removed that one piece. And all of us have our role to play, and it's not the same role. And yes, some of the roles are bigger, or some of the roles have more obvious or visible impact. But if I remove the invisible, the visible cannot happen, and the machine will fall apart. How do you approach that with coaching? Because I know, North, at the moment, you coach the football team. Is that similar to an ensemble approach of the team, or is it the star striker or the star match player?
I think my coaching is not that advanced as the ensemble.
I've witnessed your coaching.
But I try to frame it as, well, just recently I was coaching a basketball game with a bunch of 4th and 5th graders, and my philosophy in that game was everybody gets the same amount of playing time and we just rotate in. And the philosophy there was not to win the game, but to get everybody as much experience on the court playing the game as they could. And so that allowed all of them to work together in different ways, and to rely on each other and to grow themselves in their athleticism and in their team as well.
And it also kind of suggests of what you value. You value,
yeah, and that's what I value. I think
you're valuing every player's contribution, not certain players over others.
And I think that would be more difficult if I was at the coaching at an older level. That I felt more competition pressure for, and the students felt that as well. But that's, I guess, not a position that I put myself in to coach those in that way.
Right?
Because
But
it's a little
somebody
bit of-
is
yeah.
in that position.
Yeah,
and,
people are, for sure.
Society, you say the pressure to be competitive, the pressure to do this, and that kind of is Bandura's modeling and coaching kind of theories that we can say it's growth, we can say it's progress, yet what we're actually doing, it's not what we say, it's what we do. It's what we model, it's how we react and act. And when it is competitive, when my son rounds that corner and I'm screaming, hammer down, go, go, go.
Yeah.
No matter what I've done in the past, no matter what language frameworks or values orientation that we've had on the training, in the moment of competition, what we're showing is we want the result. And society's saying that. And somehow we've got to find that balance between what we're saying and how we're actually acting. And that's kind of where we're still fathering stuff out. And I think society may be a little bit against us there. That somebody is coaching that older team, and your boys are going to get older, get into that competitive squad. You're not coaching them, but somebody is. And somebody has to make the judgment call. Are we valuing playing time? In which case, we probably won't win because we're giving everybody equal time, and some of those cogs are not as efficient as the other cogs. And suddenly the kids don't want to play anymore because they're never winning. Like, how do we shift the mindset of the kids to not valuing the medal? You want to play because it's fun, even at a competitive level.
Yeah, I can share about my kids' football experience. They just recently received feedback from their coaches, written feedback, not a grade report, but it kind of focused on their different areas of play, their technical ability, their kind of emotional regulation, their tactics, and kind of field strategy. And my kids read through each one of those paragraphs, and the coach was able to describe what they were doing well, and they were able to also share where their areas of improvement were. And my kids looked at it and they read through it, and they highlighted the areas that they wanted to improve in, knowing that they could advance their game that way. And that wasn't they weren't shooting for a grade in that or a specific score. They were looking for where they could improve and taking that feedback. And I think sports is a really good, especially a team sport, is a really good way to get that feedback. That we don't always have that same opportunity in
when we're chasing grades.
Yeah, when we're looking for grades or admissions to universities. And things
is
like
it the
that.
same with rehearsals?
Yeah. Before I talk about that, I'm thinking about the sport aspect, and I'm just going to throw a spanner in the works here, because when I played for sports teams, I played football most of my life, and managed teams and played at a competitive level. There is nothing better than winning a game of football. I just have to say. Like, and that's because
there's nothing wrong with feeling good when you win.
No, I know. No, I know. But what I'm saying is, how do you have both of those feelings at the same time? I played for a team which, in my local town, we were called the Aliens. Yes, it was a competitive football team. We were called the Aliens. We modeled our team. Hindsightly, I'm going to say that it's a bit like the ensemble approach, because we weren't really a set of hard-hitting, competitive winners. We were a set of liberal lefties, I think I would say,
who
liked to play football. And I was the dancer fresh out of university running down the wing, and the captain of the team said, "Don't kick him, he's a dancer." And then I got clattered and I landed on the floor, and that's for the next
Is that how your captain sounded?
Yeah, actually.
Rather old English, dear boy.
Yes. He actually did. No joke. But for the next 70 minutes, I got kicked quite a lot because I was a dancer. So what I'm trying to say is, but we were the team that often lost. We would lose a lot. But when we go back to the clubhouse, we'd go back there, we'd sit around, and we would decide who we thought was man of the match. And how would we do it? We'd write a poem. So if you thought that Danny was the man of the match, I go, "Oh, there's Danny running down the wing. Look at him go. He is singing." I'm not very good at rhyming at this moment. But we would write it, and then we'd fold them all up and put them up. And
he's a dancer, he'll get a kicking.
And then the captain would read them out. "Right, I would like to read this poem." And we would celebrate our achievements through poetry. Yes. Why was I saying that? Because when we actually did win, which was one in about 20 matches, it was the greatest feeling on this planet. And I, at some point, want my children to experience that. And even though I'm all about process and I want them to be involved in that feedback, I love what you do as a coach. I'm fortunate that my eldest plays for North's team. And she had such a valuable experience. And everything she came home with was all about being process driven. When I went to watch the matches, I watched this constant flow of rotation. And when they scored a goal, they had that feeling. And I was just elated. I was elated. They lost the game or they drew the game or something. It didn't matter at the end, but they came off elated. So how do we have both of those things at the same time? This concept of, yes, when we do win, we can release. I asked my eldest, I said, what is it like when you win? She said, it's great. I love winning. But when I win, I don't want to celebrate too much. Because in a few days' time, I don't want to look back at that moment and feel sorry for the people that didn't win because they didn't have their chance. I want them to know that we're happy.
But they did have that chance.
I know.
And on the day they weren't there.
I hear you. I love the fact that she was able to articulate that. But at the same time, it's a huge balancing act. I want them to be involved in the process. I want them to do that, but I also want them to experience that feeling of winning.
Yeah, and that's something that I'm still fathering out with Alfie. Like when I towed a line at a local race, like, you know, not an international competition, just the city's marathon or the sprint triathlon organized by a local track club, I expect to be on the podium. And I most often am on that podium somewhere in the top 3. And what I do in that moment, I think, speaks volumes to what Alfie then has to model, or what he's kind of picking up is I don't celebrate in sort of like an obvious in-your-face way. It's a very quite like I expected it, and I put in the work, I put in the process, I got what I worked towards. And I will make a really conscious effort of, you know, celebrating the people that are the next step down from me on the podium. I can't win if there's not a second place. I can't win a race on my own. I need people to race against. You need the competition to be there. And on the day, I'm the better athlete. Therefore, I recognize that. I will celebrate that. That's worth being proud of. But it's also that shake their hand and raise their arm and congratulate them on that process. And so we started looking at how can we get Alfie in that mindset? Because I wasn't on the podium when I first started racing. What was driving me? How did I get to that level? And it was all about personal bests and personal performance. And, you know, on this race, my swim was an average of 120 per 100 meters. So next race, I want to be 119 or 118. I want to improve the swim and chase that personal best. And we've done the same with Alfie. We've tried to go with switching up from that, well done, you got 4th, I'm so proud of you, to you got a personal best, I'm so proud of you. And we had to kind of put a value on the personal best that he would see to shift him away from the place. And so we actually offered him money, like the same way they do with world champions or Olympic records. If you break the record, if you break your personal best, you get a reward. So we offered him 50 ringgit, like about $10 for every personal best you get in discipline. So when you're running 800 meters, if you do it faster than before, you get 50 ringgit, and you can save that up towards your pocket money. And you can go to a toy shop and spend it. So he starts chasing these personal bests. And it was an absolute failure because we've not taught him process. We've actually just moved it from a medal position to the sort of a self-determination theory. Your competence is now linked to your result. What happens when you've not hit a personal best? You've actually fouled then, you've lost. And then what's your encouragement? And this kind of balancing act between we want progress, therefore we need to measure it. But the problem is not that we're trying to celebrate the personal best. The problem is that we're measuring performance at all. We should be measuring the joy or the process or
the effort.
Or the effort without sacrificing the feeling of pride and achievement that you get when you've put in the work. You deserve to win and be recognized. And that balancing act is really hard to do. And it reminds me, well, the question I have for you, North, is when it comes to kids in schools chasing grades, because they matter. The podium matters. You've spent all that time working, you've spent all that effort in training, and then you get your exam, you get your race. When it doesn't come through, it does come through. That's a high pressure point.
Yeah.
How can we take failure and reframe it? So it's not a personal best. Okay, you failed the exam, but didn't you get a better mark than what you did last time? You're not an F minus, now you're an F plus. Like, well, you're still an F. How do you frame that for kids? Like when it all collapses around them, personal best, isn't the best.
Isn't the best. Yeah, I guess what I try to frame it as, we all have days that are off, and we're going to have times that we're sick, and we show up and we try to do our best that day, and that's the best that we can. And if you show up on the day to take an exam and you don't try your best, then that's on you. If you try your best, and
Your personal best.
Well, for that day.
Yeah.
Right? Like every day we wake up a little bit different. And some days we're going to get our personal best when we put in 100% effort, and some days we're not going to get our personal best even though we put in 100% effort, because that day is off.
But it is your personal best.
But
for the day.
it's the best you can do that day, and I think that's what I try and encourage people to see, and what I try to encourage myself and my kids to see. And there's a level of acceptance that we have to have, that sometimes we don't get what we want, and then we have to troubleshoot and figure out what we need to do. And I think I talked about maybe acceptance in our first episode, but there's times where we're going to fail, and we have to look at that and take what we can learn from it and accept where it is, and then move forward from that point. And so I think that's where I go when I'm talking with kids about grades or admissions to universities, or about how they did it on a particular sport. And that acceptance is hard to find, and it's not necessarily easily taught. And it's not something that is necessarily taught or shown in our culture readily.
Is the system kind of, because I remember as a kid, I was pretty academically strong, and especially in the sciences. And I remember on one of my science exams, I got 100%. In GCSE, in the UK system, you had multiple choice tests that you had to do every unit. And I got 100%, 100%, 100%. And then one of them I got sort of like 98%. And my dad said, what's wrong with the other 2%? That was the bit that was like, who's right? I'm a 100% kid, and I didn't get 100%. But like that framing.
Yeah.
Why was there a number in it? Oh, why was it not what you learned? Like is society actually against, or putting the pressure, like our balance is, we want what what's the name? Csikszentmihalyi, I believe.
Well done.
Flow states and process orientation and growth. And if you get into the flow state and you're enjoying something, you are learning, and then society goes, we're going to interrupt your flow state, and we're going to interrupt your process with a grade, with a measure.
That 98% felt like a failure.
It felt like a failure because you've put in a number. Whereas if you just said, well done, you're really enjoying science, you're really learning from the sciences, I'd have carried on in the state.
Yeah.
Society is at loggerheads with the work we're trying to do? Or is it the society is in the same direction, it's us that's failing in our conversations or the framing of what we value?
I think society and we want to see people be successful. And that success is, maybe it's 100% every time, but we don't necessarily.
Or 98. 98 was also a success.
But you didn't see it that way that day.
I do now.
You do now. but you didn't that
It's
day.
taken a lot of years of counseling and money on psychologists, but I now see that 98% was good.
It was good. Yeah.
Average.
High average.
Yeah.
But I think we can find success when we do fail, if we reflect on it and we take that reflection into our next step of learning. But I think that there is a lot of pressure on that immediate success.
Yeah. There's also that pressure on putting a label on things. You know, you just put 4 labels on your tests. You put 100% label, 100% label, 100% label, 98% label. And that 98% wasn't the same as the other labels. And you're going, well,
comparison.
The
comparative culture.
And I said I'd come back to this concept of talent, and did the talent competition for my dad, with my dad and my sister. That word was thrown at me a lot when I was juggling. So when I would juggle, I started juggling when I was 7 years old. Started with 3 balls, and then I moved up to 4, and then by 11 I was doing 5 balls, and then by about 12, 13 I got to 6, and then get to 15, and I'm moving on to 7. And as I get there, people keep saying, "Can you do more? Can you do the next number? Can you do the next number higher? Can you do the next number higher?" And that was constantly in my mind. And then I remember one time I was at a juggling convention in Europe, and they have these big sports halls, and there's 200 jugglers throwing objects in the air, riding unicycles. And there was one of my dad's friends stood back, and he folded his arms. He said, I think I need to break his arms. He's getting too good. He's so talented. He's so talented. And I heard that and I went, what? I'm not. And at that point, I understood this concept of talent because it was like 100%. Oh, he's so talented. But that process that I'd gone through to get to juggling 7 balls.
To talented.
Yeah. I'd taken so long, so many hours, so much deep learning, so much feedback, so much time with my dad just improving, giving me little bits of feedback, getting annoyed because I got past his 5 balls that he could do and I was doing 7. And I think when we put that label immediately on something, it takes away all that effort and commitment.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that winning doesn't feel nice. It doesn't mean that coming first doesn't feel great or getting 100% doesn't feel great. Those things do feel great. But at some point with our children, whether it's our own children or whether it's in schools, we have to look at that process and we have to celebrate the great things that they're doing.
Yeah.
So when my daughter comes forwards with a painting and she's done a painting and she goes, Daddy, do you like this? I go, oh gosh, that is absolutely amazing. I'm not doing anything for her.
No. You're setting that milestone.
But if I look at it and I say,
how
wow,
did you get to this?
The way you've used the color there next to that color, they really contrast. They look so good together. And the way that you've put the shading in there, what is that thing there? Can you tell me what that is there? It's really interesting. Suddenly I'm entering into a conversation and that person in the sports hall that's looking at me juggling going, how did you do this? How did you get there? How did you
get to this level of
talent?
talent?
How did you get to this level of talent? I don't mind the word talent if we understand there's a way that you got there.
Yeah.
So I think just fathering out here, that would be my way of thinking in terms of how we do that.
Because that's exactly where we're at with Alfie now, because we realized the podium chasing was bad. Then the personal best wasn't much better. But we're now at a point of celebrating the process. So when he does a race, he recently did a cross country, it was 2.6 kilometers.
Oh, wow.
He came in 9th. But when he went off at the line, he was 40th or so. And me and his mum were there. I coached a cross-country team. His mum was able to be there as a chaperone, so she was able to watch as well. When he crossed the line, what we celebrated was, wow, you started off really well controlled with your pace. And we saw your form was really strong as you went into the tunnel. And then you started speeding up in the second half. You ran a really smart race and you was able to overtake the kids that hadn't run such a smart race. And it's that process of, this is the process you went for. Oh, tell me, what was in your mind? Like when you came around that last corner, like what was you thinking? How was you feeling? Oh, I was feeling really tired and my left foot was hurting a little bit. Oh, well, how did you get through that? Well, I told myself it's only grace. You had this thought process, this feedback loop that you went through. That's what we're trying to celebrate. Here's 50 ringgit for running a really smart race. Was it a PB? It doesn't matter if it was a PB. It was the best we've seen you race from the sort of mindset of how you come into it. And then we go back to school, and obviously the social media team want to celebrate the podiums. And all the other teachers want to know, did you win medals?
And that's a picture on social media.
Yeah, and we go, well, can we celebrate the kids that put in the process? Can we celebrate this kid did really well? This kid did really well. This kid ran a really smart race. This kid got injured and carried on. This kid showed resilience. Like, what are we actually celebrating? Because as much as I say it on the sideline, as soon as society steps in, society says, oh, you're so talented, you came first. What's that conversation look like with kids? They're obviously aware of it. Do kids you talk to, do they voice it? Are they cognizant of sort of the growth over the process, or are they really grade chasing and focused on the medal because no matter what we do, they're indoctrinated into this idea?
I think it's so kid dependent, so student dependent. I think some students are very focused on the grade and the recognition for it, or whatever their success may be, whether that's academics or on the field. And some students are much more motivated by their learning and could care less whether they're celebrated or recognized for that or not. And some of them don't want to be recognized for it. And I think that's just as valuable as well. I think humility can go a long way towards things. So
is that, which one do you think is healthier for the kid from a well-being stance? Like,
I guess this is my perspective, and I think you and I are a little bit different. I think that humility goes a long way in my respect for people and the way that people are perceived. And I think that's a little bit of who I am as well. I try to be a humble person. So I guess my bias is towards that. If people want to be celebrated, let's celebrate them, absolutely. But I think we should ask people first if they want to be celebrated. And whether they want that attention or not. Yeah, I'm not sure if that exactly answers your question or not.
Yeah, kind of. Because what I look at is sort of Alfie Cohen's research on motivation, that if we externalize the rewards, if it's a medal, if it's a grade, if it's this, we hollow out the process and we take it away from the person sort of internalizing. Adam Grant's work on hidden potential, and so it's not the kid at the top that you want to be championing, it's the kid that had the biggest improvement. That's the growth that matters.
Absolutely.
You go from 90 to 100, well done. You go from 30 to 80, you've actually progressed more over the same time, and that really says something about character. What I challenge, or what I wonder is the problem the celebration, or is the problem what we're celebrating, where we're celebrating, how we're celebrating? Because if we normalize celebrating everybody's growth, everyone gets celebrated. It takes the pressure off. Oh, I'm only getting celebrated when I win. Well, that's not what we want to do. But we do want to celebrate everyone, because everyone deserves to be celebrated. Maybe that makes you feel uncomfortable, but that's because society has made celebration such a negatively associated with winning, where actually celebration should be personal and everyone deserves to be celebrated. How do you do that in the theatre? Jez, you've got a group of kids, they're building their ensemble, but somebody has a leading role.
I think the point when this becomes an issue for me is at the end of a show. You think of the end of a show, think of any show that you've gone to watch, and your brain is immediately locked into who's the leading actor. And
coming out and taking the bow at the center.
Who's the ensemble? So you've seen the recent production that I did. And at the end, the students will say, so who's going to bow first? And I said, no, we're all going to bow together. So what? We're going to bow together. Yeah, we're going to bow together because we are an ensemble. We are completely inclusive of everybody. And we're going to see the backstage crew. The backstage crew are going to come out onto the stage and they're going to take a bow with you. And then the lighting crew, we're going to get them as well. And it's not a who goes first because you're the most important. It's everybody bows together. So I create a space where they all scatter on stage and they all bow. Have I cleaned my shoes? Yes, I've cleaned my shoes.
And timing.
That's just for timing.
Just for timing, okay.
Just timing. Just a little nugget there for you. And then that line then moves to the back. The next line comes forwards. They bow, but it's in no particular order. And I do that because I really want the students to feel that they are, if we call it winning, they're winning together. They've just all together equally, with ownership, poured their creativity onto that stage, taken the courage, that confidence, all at different levels. And yeah,
all facilitated it from backstage, and without them, you don't have a show. So they deserve.
Absolutely, they are the bricks of entertainment, and that builds that amazing wall that we see. I hope that when we do these sorts of things, that these moments are taken away. However, the next theatre teacher comes along and they might do it differently. And what society expects often overrules how we do things. The kids questioned it a lot.
Yeah.
Why are we not having the lead character come forward first? Because we're all leading together. So
it's that interesting sort of back to that celebration. Like, why we've got to celebrate the machine, not the individual cog. Because without any of those cogs, we don't have a machine. And I think that's kind of where our conversation ends here, but the conversation for society starts. Take that home with you and father it out in your friendship groups, in your family homes, with your coaches and with your teams. What are we actually celebrating? What are we trying to value as society? Is it chasing grades? Is it chasing results? Or is it growth of good human beings? We're still fathering that out. There is no perfect answer. We hope you'll join us for that conversation. Thanks.